you, dude. You're hosting.
Oh, I'm the host. Welcome to the Health or High Water podcast. What's going on, Trip?
What's up, man? I love that name, Health or High Water.
It's probably one of my, to be honest with you, it's probably one of my favorite names. Especially super impressed you chose it too. That's
Thanks, man.
so great.
Thank you.
So episode 2, first of all, so glad to co-host this podcast with you. Part of this is I just want to get right into, personal training right off the bat. You're a personal trainer, big time into health and fitness. So why don't you just start and just talk a little bit about like your background, personal training, some of your interests, and some of your experience.
Yeah, sure. So just generalize right now, working on something called health profiling, which is, I'll get into a little bit later, but yeah, little more than a trainer. I think we're both getting into realms of beyond training now that we're getting involved with so many different aspects. But my whole fitness journey started when I was 12, man. Like I was 18 years younger than my brother. We had pretty much nothing in common, so he dragged my ass to the gym. What was really funny though was like I was at one of those original like meathead gyms, right? Like, dude, Dave Bautista went to my gym back in the day. Like, this guy was doing like 245s on the neck machine.
Do you remember? You want to shout out the gym name or no?
Oh, it's Gold's. Gold's in Ashburn, Virginia. Yeah, dude, it was like the mecca of the time around the area. Of you go there if you're want to get big.
Gold. That's the gold standard of gyms.
It really is. Have you ever been to Venice Beach? The Gold's out there?
No. I've been to a Gold's before. I've never been out to like the real Venice Beach. No, have you?
Well, yeah, I went out there, but it was I got a cheap plane ticket during COVID, and like they were closed, and I was heartbroken. Heartbroken.
Wait, they were closed? Why, like permanently or just for
just for COVID? They're like closed down. I was like, oh man. Well, at least I got to see it though.
Yeah, that's like the mecca of lifting.
Oh my God.
So you were 12. Tell a little bit about, or just kind of like let listeners know a little bit about your experience, how you got in the gym at 12. What were you doing program wise?
Yeah, sure. So it was at the time, the internet was still kind of in its infancy of like educating people on health and wellness. This was around 2002, 3, right? So we got all of our programs from like muscle and fitness magazines and whatnot. That old school thing. You stopped at the pro shop on the way out at the store. You pick up your protein and your magazine for the month, and you do whatever workouts in there that your bodybuilder's doing. So it was very much getting all your information from like hardcore places, whether that's like the pro who owns a pro shop, like, hey, let's try this new workout or whatnot. So I started right in advanced stages immediately, because no one's going to put up with the 12-year-olds bullshit when they're trying to get their fucking work done, Yeah. But that honestly turned into a passion, like that little tiny hobby, like little lo and behold to myself, like it just turned into a love. I kept doing it from 12 on. When I was 15, I started like helping my friends work out. In high school, like everyone's trying to put on some muscle, whether they're playing sports. I did swim team, which was, they were trying to keep me from putting muscle on, and I said, fuck that. I want to be a big boy.
Give me the meat.
Yeah, and then I did really well my senior year because of the muscle. So I got to kind of laugh at my coach. Shout out to Coach Nick Rosita, who was like the best man I've ever met in my entire life. He's the one that got me into a college with his recommendation letter. So man's amazing. Funny as shit. And I did learn a lot about like conditioning through swimming though. How to do anaerobic kind of stuff, like the importance of having a balanced workout, not just in the gym, making sure you're getting cardio in too. I love swimming, but obviously it wasn't my passion. Like I want to pick heavy shit up and put it down. After that, I got into I went to community college for a little bit. I was taking 19 credits, so I'd get in the gym at like 5:30 in the morning. At that time, I had been arrested for a DWI. I didn't have a license, so my parents would, on the way to work, would drop me off near campus, and I would after the gym, bus to campus, stay there until like 9 o'clock at night, and start the whole shit over.
Wait, so back up 1 second real quick. So,
yeah.
So you're 12 years old in the gym. You're lifting with your brother. So you lifted throughout high school from 12 all the way to freshman year,
Yep.
all the way. So you're lifting. Are you doing bodybuilding? What kind of programs are you doing?
Like pretty much straight up bodybuilding.
Okay.
Like just anything to gain muscle. Like a lot of hypertrophy kind of stuff. That was when hypertrophy first kind of came out.
Yeah.
Right, so doing a lot of that kind of stuff. I remember doing one of the first pyramid workouts that ever came out. That was like, well, that was widespread, right? Like doing the first like high volume pyramid stuff, and like all that stuff instilled it to me still today about all this little stuff I learned from them, right? I'm still putting all that together right now, and that's again because it came straight from an advanced source. You know, I wasn't just like, I didn't just walk into like a normal gym and like kind of start my normal fitness journey. I got thrown into like the steroid pool, just to be honest. You know what I mean? Like that kind of hardcore, like anything for some gains. Like one of my buddies at the time, Mo Sherez, if you're listening to this, I love you so much. He ran the pro shop at Gold's. He would bring a bucket to the gym on leg day because he would throw up because he pushed himself so hard every time. You'd see him after leg day walking his bucket to the bathroom. It's just so crazy, dude.
It was a different. You don't see that too much anymore, right?
No, that kind of gym is pretty much dead.
That's funny because that's kind of the gym I grew up in too. Is like you don't see these gyms too much anymore. Like the dirty, dingy, like one light swinging from the top of the ceiling. There's weights everywhere. There's one guy at the front desk who's like in the middle of lifting. Like those are the
He's sweaty as shit.
those are like the hardcore gyms that they don't make them like that anymore. Okay, so
yeah, those are dungeon gyms. They build character, man. Like that's where you learn all the little tricks of the trade. You know, is
so you got thrown into this incredibly early, like 12 years old.
Yeah, like everyone's like, what the fuck is a 12-year-old doing here? But like my brother had a really good network there, so like they all like took me under their wing. Like I still talk to a lot of them today. You know, like Chandler, if you're listening to this, like Chandler Day, like one of the best people I've ever met. Ed Santiago, one of the best. I mean, all these group of people. I still talk to a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. So in high school, did you do anything other than swimming? Was swimming that was kind of your?
I tried to play football. I went to a few practices. I snuck in, and my mom found out. And I got a pretty good spanking because my mom was going through menopause while I was going through puberty. So imagine that. It was a time to be alive, man.
You crack me up. So you focused on swimming through high school. As you were lifting and stuff, did you? I know later on you got into supplementation and stuff like that. How did? Tell a little bit about that story. What got you into supplementation? I know you're big into science, which brings you kind of today. You're big on genetics and bringing in the science portion. So how did that, throughout like your high school career, how did that intertwine and how did that evolve?
It all started from like a love of research from those magazines. You know, that's where it kind of all started. And at the same time, my brother was so into health and wellness and fitness and working out and supplementation and all this other stuff. So I already had kind of a good base knowledge from having that advanced background in that kind of stuff. But I was always trying to look for the next thing. I was always trying to like, how can I put on more muscle? What's the latest trends going on? And as I was in college, I was kind of like my fraternity's unofficial health chair. You know, I'd programmed for 25 people in my fraternity, but throughout my college career, right? And about halfway through my college career, my brother started a company called Muscle Gen Research. And I started working with wholesaling supplements to people or, you know, mom and pop shops. I mean, all over the place, whether that was protein powder or SARMs, peptides, which I'll get into that later, what happened with that. But, you know, that's how I got into the fitness industry was, you know, starting sales in college.
So kind of just a short rewind. So going into college, where'd you go to college?
I started at Northern Virginia Community College, and then I transferred to Radford University. It's like literally like about 20 minutes away from Virginia Tech in Appalachia.
Yeah. Did you? For me, I hate it. Now, I would never talk bad about college. There's so much. It's great to be in environmental learning. I personally didn't find it meshed with what I was doing. I didn't like to be talked at. I didn't like the whole structure of college. What were your thoughts? College-wise, were you straight A's? Like what was like? What? Give me a little.
Man, college trip was.
Give me a little college trip experience.
Jesus, he was a bit of a wild man. I had a drunk alter ego called Rambo. That he would get a bit buck wild. You know, but I listen. I never missed the gym though. I was disciplined even in college. I would carry 50 pounds worth of chain in my backpack a mile across campus so I could do like chain workouts at the gym. I was just crazy, dude. You know, I'd go fucking drink all night and then like get up and go lift and like sweat my alcohol out. But I was a little bit of a wild child, man. Like straight up, you know, your Animal House situation. That was literally my situation with a little more black mold.
It's almost like lifting's almost like an escape in some sense, right?
It's been my only constant, right? Like I've had some family issues with my grandpa getting murdered, like my grandma going through cancer. I mean, all this other stuff. And my one constant has always been fitness. You know, like, and that's one thing that like I hope people get out of this story is like, if things are going on, you can have one healthy thing that's a consistent, that's always going to be there for you. Like in a bad day, the gym's there for you. You can have a good lift. In a good day, you can have a good lift. You know what I mean? It's all based off of that. And that's been I think that's what's kept me fucking sane and out of jail the second time. But you know, that's what's kept me so fresh and like healthy. I mean, like, you know, I'm almost 32 and I'm still like in shape I was pretty much when I was like 25. Mm-hmm. You know, it's been my one constant, my one love, and I hope people can find something like that, whether it's yoga, Pilates, or weightlifting. It doesn't fucking matter what your niche is.
Mm-hmm. So you started. There was a point somewhere around this time where you started your own supplement company.
So kind of. So like,
yeah, tell a little bit about that.
So I was working for my brother throughout college or whatnot, and after I graduated, I went down to Raleigh and worked for him in his MedFit center for about 8 months, and we started getting into kind of like more science-based stuff, lab work, hormones, and then that word that we're going to be using a lot is genetics. I fell in love with genetics because it made sense. I was like, well, I've been training people for unprofessionally for about 8 years at that point, and I was like, oh, finally, like there's actually reason behind why this doesn't work for some people and not others. Fell in love with it, but I also grew up in a family full of entrepreneurs. So my girlfriend at the time was in Northern Virginia. I was like, this time for me to leave, you know, MedFit and go out on my own and do my own thing. So I started a company called the Protein Bar. It was put together really fast, way too quick, wrong location. But hey, dude, you live and learn. It was a supplement store in the front with I sold genetic tests as well, and in the back there was I had a full shake shop in the back that I could make fresh shakes, as well as an oxygen bar across from that.
So when you're selling genetic tests, what is that? Because even people in fitness most of them have no idea what that is. Just give us a little taste of it. You don't have to go.
Sure, just a little generalized. Yeah. So like generally speaking, we're all made up of genetics or genes called alleles, right? That's our genetic indicators that tell us if we have green eyes or if we build muscle faster than somebody else, or, you know, if you have certain diseases, right? They're all based off of genetic alleles, which we don't know all of them right now, but we know a little bit. And that's enough that we can pull off of, that we can actually change people's lives, health perspective based off of themselves. What makes us beautifully unique also makes us have challenges in the gym and out of the gym, whether nutrition, whatnot. This is the same reason fad diets and workouts work for some people, not others. So we take these genetic alleles, we take a saliva test, and then we match them with your genotype, which your genetic genotypes are A, C, G, and T, all different combinations of those 4 letters. And then it comes up with your genetic output. For example, I had a client who had a genetic allele called ARG16GLY. Can't remember her genotype with that, but she was doing HIIT training 6 days a week, and she was morbidly obese. Found out through her genetic test that she hoarded fat when she did high-intensity interval training. So we put her on a powerlifting program, and she started to shed weight faster. Right? It's the fact about genetic testing is it answers questions that we don't know that help us get to where we want to go. A lot easier than just guessing. Right? Like we can do the shotgun approach and just like I did, try those muscle and fitness magazines and hope it works, or have a quantitative results and actually just get to where you need to go. So that's a little bit about genetics.
Yeah, and that goes not just for like fitness programs, but I mean hugely on nutrition too, right? Because we've all our ancestors throughout, you know, how long have eaten a particular type of diet, and there's no one right diet for every person, right? It depends on like your gut biome, like what your history.
I mean, environmental factors, stress factors also go into this. I mean, there's a lot more into it than even just genes too, you know? I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have IBS if I didn't have the diet growing up and all the stressors, right? And that's something I have to deal with to mix with my genotype. But giving our genetics, it gives us a much better approach, like you said, using our ancestors. I mean, like our ancestors ate a certain thing, and we're a combination of our parents, which could be a weird combination of what we need to eat, right? It's the same thing as like people like argue with me about dairy, right? 4 out of 5 people lose their lactose enzyme by the time they're 5 years old because you're not supposed to be drinking milk. But if you have Mongolian descent, they drank milk throughout adulthood and gained a gene that they kept that lactose enzyme, right? So that's why some people can digest milk after the age of 5 and not. There's like scientific reasons why these things happen, and genetics really give us a better picture of why that is.
Yeah, there's so much now that's being included in scientifically into these programs, and I think that's kind of what excites me about working with you. And I think we'll get through some of your story about the protein bar and bringing the listeners up to kind of what brings us to today and starting this podcast and the point behind this podcast and all that. So let's go back to, so you're doing the protein bar. You learned a lot through that.
Oh, it's like business-wise, as well as like what the industry standard is for science. Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't have a good medical facility you're working with at this time, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, genetics were still kind of new for fitness and wellness. I mean, they were doing cancer stuff, they were doing all sorts of different things with genetics, but it was still kind of new. But yeah, I was pushing it pretty hard because I believed in it. I believe in science. It's fucking fact, right? Like
science does change, though. There are times where we think we have something scientifically figured out, and then it's proven. Maybe new science comes out that proves it.
You know, I think there will be something even more finite than genetics eventually. We find something deeper than that.
Yeah.
But that's, we're limited to the technology of our day, mm-hmm. right? But I think this is our best shot at what we got with it. And I was pushing it pretty hard, man. Like when I was in Leesburg, like I would go to professional football tryouts and try to sell these to people, because like, hey man, you're like almost there. Like I saw these genetic tests, I do this training, yada yada. The second one I went to, I got drafted.
You got drafted?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that just shows I was on my own genetic test for a while. I was training really hard. I was doing plyometrics. I was like ready for football, and like I had to try out if I went to these places, or I looked like sketch shit. Yeah. So here's that fucking weird guy in the corner, like just like dapping people up, saying hi.
Yeah, that's right. And I actually didn't mention that. So you played professional football. There's the league you played in. What position did you play?
So I played for the rival professional football league. It was this shoddy. I'm not gonna talk too much shit about it because it was one of the best experiences of my life. But it was a shittier league. It was kind of like the farm league for arena and the NFL. Some people my team got drafted to the CFL. But I played free safety. Sean Taylor's my favorite player of all time. I played slot receiver, and then I played gunner for special teams.
Yeah. This was a feeder program for a lot of leagues that were feeding into, like you said. Like, did anybody make it into the NFL that you knew of, or no?
Not that I know of, but this one offensive lineman that we had, his first game, like we had scouts at every game, right? Like the first game, some scout came up to him and like we got told that he got immediately placed in this like really high profile arena league, and he was going to make this kind of money and shit, and like we're all like, oh shit, got the whole team excited. It's like we're all gonna make it, and that's not really the case at all. Like, and like the contract was, it sounded so good on paper. It's like you got a $500,000 contract, right? But like the whole thing is like they want to put you out into different leagues. So they don't pay you. It's like, hey, you play really well here, we'll place you somewhere else, right? So that like it sounds really great, but it's all incentive based. But if you play well, you get moved out anyway. So this $500,000 contract means fucking nothing.
I mean, it's still cool, and it's still a great experience.
Oh yeah, and like playing at that level, like I used to play against a cornerback that played for the Detroit Lions, and like again, the league itself was kind of shitty, but the players, they were no scrubs, dude. Like they fucking balled. Mm-hmm. It was some really good kids playing.
Yeah, I mean, football in general is I love football because now you know how dangerous. There's a lot of science coming about how dangerous like these impacts are.
Yeah.
Like how much pressure people are taking with these tackles, and people are getting bigger. There's a documentary, Bigger, Faster, Stronger.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, yeah.
People are getting bigger, faster, and stronger. And so you look at like these NFL hits, and it's just unbelievable what the injuries they're able to absorb.
Well, there's some cool science about this non-Newtonian fluid that they're going to start using for pads. That like it starts off as a gel, but if the faster it gets hit, the stronger it gets. So I'm really hoping they're going to start implementing this a little more into the NFL and hopefully kind of curve the injury rate down a little bit.
Newtonian fluid?
Non-Newtonian fluid.
Non-Newtonian.
So like not like a Newtonian fluid would be like water. It acts like if you punch it, it separates, right? A non-Newtonian material, right? It starts off kind of viscous, right? Word kind of kind of thick and squishy. If you hit it really slow, it kind of like acts like silly putty. But if you hit it really quick, it solidifies really fast.
That's like when you take that seatbelt and you pull it slow, it pulls out, and then
yeah. kind of the same jam, dude. Kind of the same jam. But
same exact thing. Okay.
But yeah, so after I finished one season playing down in Atlanta, Georgia, shout out to ATL. I really enjoyed my time down there. Funny story about that was my dad came down with me. He was like my trainer coach kind of situation, and I was booking the Airbnbs, and I don't know Atlanta worth anything, dude. I've never been there before, and so I booked a house in a place called Bankhead. Anyone in Atlanta listening knows that this is what T.I. raps about. It was like literally us pulling into the neighborhood. There was a convenience store with you know those like long fences that go around construction sites.
Yeah.
So this motherfucker was zip tied to the window to prevent people from stealing shit. And I was like, that was like their dude. It was. We stayed there for like 2 nights. And like, no, we're moving on.
So,
but yeah, it was an experience and a half, man. Shout out to my dad for going through that with me.
So let's kind of like you learned a lot through football. You obviously are not playing professionally now.
Yeah, I learned a lot about what it takes to be an elite athlete. People that are putting their heart and. I mean, I've always wanted to play football. As I said, like trying to sneak into practice. I put my heart and soul into it, right? But I also saw what everyone else was putting in and what it took, recovery, the workouts, even outside of practice, right? Like you have to be 100% dedicated to even do it, and to see the dedication, everybody, maybe not realize, but re-solidify why I love fitness and why I loved it, because you can't short good work. You can be genetically gifted at football, right? But you have to do a certain amount of work to make it work for you. You have to, right? And you can't short that. And it made me fall in love with it again,
So with like kind of your experience playing football, and now you've had the protein bar you've had, and you guys did oxygen therapy.
Yeah. I wanted something else to do in the back, and I looked into oxygen therapy and the benefits of recovery with it, and got myself an oxygen bar, put it back there, and found it like extremely beneficial to everybody, especially when you're adding essential oils to it too. You're getting the benefits from there, but a lot of us don't breathe right, right? And when we're expelling all this oxygen working out, throughout the day, walking to work or whatever, like you need to be replenished. And especially places like Denver where you're a mile high, you don't get enough oxygen. Oxygen is incredibly important in the recovery process as well as stress. So having some medical grade oxygen was a great option for the protein bar at the time. And I made some decent sales during that,
Yeah, that's one thing I am literally, I think that's probably one of my biggest passions. Is I always talk about breathing, and I feel like to the normal person, it almost feels like an inert kind of discussion where it's like, okay, everybody breathes naturally, but really the thing is that there's different ways to breathe. For instance, for singers do particular breathing workouts. They do an entire workout on breathing.
Right.
It affects everything. So with a particular sport, let's say shooting a bow, there's a time you're inhaling. There's a specific time you're exhaling. I'm trying to think of other examples where the breathe. So
even sharpshooting, like
shooting, you're definitely practicing on breathing. So I'm so big on on breathing and how you do it, especially during exercise. It's such a big focus.
Well, I mean, honestly, like, jumping back into the football thing, like I hired a breathing yoga instructor to do one-on-one with me for 2 or 3 sessions. But before football, I was like, I want to learn how to like make sure I'm getting the most out of my shit. And those 3 sessions I had with her were some of the most beneficial sessions I've ever had about breathing. And no one ever teaches you how to actually breathe. You just innately do it. It's a part of survival. But like our parents don't teach us how to breathe, right? Like it's just we don't think about it because we do it already.
Yeah, I've watched other personal trainers just over the years, and I've almost never seen somebody actually discussing breathing. And I think that's like one of the most important things you could do during a session is the mechanics of breathing. So when to inhale, when you're exhaling, the pattern, and then we could get into, like the diaphragm and what that plays into it. But I just see that so underutilized.
It's huge. And hopefully, one day we'll have an expert on this come to the podcast and be able to show us, maybe give us an understanding of it better too. Like I've read some books on it, but I love to learn more because you're right, it's so important.
Yeah, there's a lot of research. There's a lot of research now and coming out about the importance, and I think a lot of it is just people, the general public, being able to understand and professionals being able to communicate and articulate what's happening physiologically when you do these breathing exercises.
Right.
So you have all that experience. You got into bodybuilding early on. You were thrown into the waters. You did professional athletic stuff where you got into sports-specific training. You got into supplements. You got into the business end of fitness. Now, after this, where does this take you philosophically from your training perspective? Like, how do you approach personal training sessions?
Well, after that season, I felt lost. I was the most sad I've ever been in my entire life. I felt like everything I had done at that point was for football, and I was never going to be able to do it again. I mean, it just, I'd had no prior experience to building my body up to the hits and everything else, and it just, broke me mentally and physically. So I went back to work for my brother. I did more supplement sales. I loved everyone I worked with. I'm not saying about that, but I was like incredibly depressed the whole time because I felt lost. Like I was like, I don't want to sell supplements. I want to play fucking ball. Like I was like, I love that. Again, like I was reiterate what I said before. Like there's a certain level of like, not respect, but just love for that dedication of, every day it's like all about fitness. Like from 10 o'clock until 6 o'clock at night, like I'm at the gym, I'm on the field, I'm studying the playbook. And I felt completely lost after that. And I don't think anyone I was working with understood that. I was like, why is Tripp fucking up so bad with work? It's like, well, because he doesn't know what he's doing. Right? So I did that for a while. It was pretty miserable. In October, working for my brother, we got raided by the FDA. We're doing some things that weren't really kosher with selling, weren't selling the right products and whatnot. I decided to leave because ethically, we were raised different than that, and I didn't want to be a part of that. What brought me out to Denver the first time, I lost my love for personal training at that point. I didn't want anything to do with fitness. I was kind of scarred. I was like, if this is how it's going to be, if I'm sad after football, if I'm sad selling supplements, where the fuck do I sit? So
just for some context, you weren't doing anything wrong that you personally got raided.
That I knew of.
Okay.
I didn't know that we were, selling SARMs and pro hormones were completely against the law. We were told there's a loophole and whatnot, and there's some more things to that. I won't go into too much detail, but I just wanted to do fitness right. Mm-hmm. That's that love for that hard work and football. Like I wanted to see that with the supplements, and that's not how it is, dude. Mm-hmm. The fitness industry has a lot of shady shit going on. Mm-hmm. So after that, moved out to Denver, moved in with the fraternity brother, and I tried to use my degree from Radford for marketing, which did not go well during COVID. Lo and behold, and no one's going to hire a guy who's tied to an indictment. So I had a rough time finding work for about a year. Sold my car just to get by. Walked everywhere, whatnot, and the next year I was like, I got to get my shit together after that money started running out. And I was like, well, I know personal training. I got recertified, and I fell in love with it again because I was doing it for myself and not for anybody else.
The first session, when I first met you and you walked through the door of the gym we were working at, you walked through the front door and I was in the middle of a session. My schedule at that point when I met you was just crazy. I was training, and then as soon as I was done training, I was with somebody else, and then it was just bonkers. So I literally could not plan my day. And you walked through the front door while I was training, and I had, 3 or 4 other things to do. And I think I might have shook your hand, said hi. I think I might have said, "Hey, Trip, welcome to Colorado." You moved across the country for the job, and then I said, "Hey, can you spot this client? Can you spot this client real quick? I got to do something." I threw you into it, and you literally just took off running and just immediately jumped into it. Didn't even have to give you any instructions. You just ran with it and ready to go.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it was kind of funny. I walked in the door, shook your hand, and like walked up. I was like, "Oh, it's just go time. Let's do it." And I like that though, because I'm used to getting thrown in the fire. I had never played football before, thrown into the fire. I had never been working out before, thrown into the fire. Like that's sneaker swim helmets are my jam, dude.
Dude, I was after that. I just knew I was like, all right, that's what I'm looking for is like initiative. Somebody taking charge doesn't need to be, and I think that's what people are looking for in general too. So I mean, it was just awesome to see that.
Well, I appreciate that, dude. That's what started a budding relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got back into that, and then my mom had a stroke last May. Yeah, last May, almost a year now. And I moved back home to take care of her. And honestly, that taught me a lot about recovery from strokes, dementia, how to handle those kind of cases. I got my mom off of stuff, blood pressure medicine for taking her on walks, putting her on a healthy diet. Like I learned a lot from that. But I also realized that my dad's income was not going to cover her future medical cost. So practicality's sake, I applied everywhere from, like I told you, Czech Republic all the way to California. And the one place that I went back to Denver because of you, which was the craziest weird thing, right? Like coming back to Denver after leaving there for that, like you apply everywhere else, and then the one place that chooses you is the place you're just at. Which I love because I have a network here. I already met people, whatnot, and working for you was honestly you were the best boss I've ever had. Straight up. I mean, you just kind of let me do my thing, and you're just as long as everyone's happy, you're just going, yeah, just do your thing, man. I mean, you were great, dude. And you also you're also really good at picking teams. Picking the right people for the position. That's why locations succeed. It's not because of just where you put it. It's the people that you put into it. Mm-hmm. Right, and I think that's awesome, and that's kind of what started our budding friendship. I ended up leaving Core after you left shortly. I stayed there for about another month, and then I managed an Exponential, general managed Exponential location out in Boulder. Learned a lot there, but just like you said, dude, it's this it's corporate BS, top to bottom. I mean, like some good people that work in there. I'm not going to say bad about that. They're hustlers that love the fitness industry, but it was a different direction I wanted to go. I ended up quitting and starting this training company I got right now, and that's when you and I started kind of working together, and I think that's kind of where the story leaves off.
Yeah. So what's the future then for Trip?
Well, the future is again something I've been working with you, and something I'm really excited to share with everybody is a new approach called health profiling. Right? We're currently patent pending this process of looking at fitness through a different kind of lens. Right? We don't invest our money within one place. We diversify our portfolio. I mean, all your investors that you hear like diversify your portfolio. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. We're investing our time into our body, our body, mind, soul. So like. We're trying to take not just the working out. We're trying to take nutrition, supplements, recovery, genetics, blood work. We're trying to take this whole spectrum into the way we apply fitness, and it's a more practical approach to the results because we actually have science behind us. We're not just throwing shit at a board and trying to get it to stick. Like we got an arrow, and we can guide the people in the right way. And I can't wait to be able to apply this to. We're currently looking at locations, and we're going to kind of get into that on our next podcast. But that's kind of the future: is us looking at health as a all-in-one approach and using science behind it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, man, it was incredible to hear your story. I've heard it before. Some of the parts I have not heard. Some of them I'm hearing for the first time, so I love that. I'm super excited to see what the future holds for this new location and getting into personal training and other endeavors in the wellness industry. And so next podcast that we'll do is some of the history on the future of, how we want to structure the company, what services we're going to provide, and the other people that we're going to bring on the podcast. But essentially, it's everything health and wellness. Anything that I missed there?
No, I just appreciated your time, and get to hang out, and I appreciate you bringing me out to Denver again and starting this whole amazing process. Like we're starting a business together. We're killing it. This podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening. For the second episode of Health or High Water. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. But yeah, I'm just excited for our future, dude. It's just it's burning pretty bright right now.
All right, man. Pleasure talking with you today.
Peace and chicken grease.